My name is Seddre G. This is my IMP visual. The question being answered is, to what extent has racial discrimination been displayed in sports culture? Discrimination in sports has been showcased in athletes' careers through bullying, discouraging other races, forcing them out of their jobs, a huge wage gap, relegating them to smaller roles such as the bench or not playing, and preventing them from getting professional attention from leagues. One example of the racial discrimination displayed in sports culture is the heckling and bullying of minorities, such as Jackie Robinson, who broke the color barrier, being the first African American MLB player. He faced a lot of slandering and racial slurs as he received multiple evidence of hate mail and death threats and was forced to be separated from his Caucasian teammates and coaches. He was hurled invectives and he was slurred in general. As you can see, there's our examples of some of the death threats that were sent to him, as he was threatened to be killed if he attempted to enter a ball game, and many people threatened to throw him into a river. Another example of this can be Wilfred Zaha, who was forced to be used to the constant rattlings of fans calling him slurs such as the N-word and calling him a monkey. Multiple athletes also lost their jobs from protesting, such as Colin Kaepernick, who was well known for kneeling during the national anthem in 2016. This is seen to be a protest for all the African Americans who were killed during police killings and police shootings. Now, he was blackballed, and his general manager said that he would have been released if Colin Kaepernick hadn't opted out of his deal himself. This is due to the kneeling and the protesting. As you can see, Colin Kaepernick is still unsigned, and there are multiple players with his QB rating or similar to it, such as Michael Vick in 2015 and Fitzpatrick in 2016, who are still signed to this day. This is showing the blackballing and censorship of Kaepernick. Another example of this can be Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who were kicked off of the U.S. Olympic team for not participating in the national anthem and protesting for African Americans. Muhammad Ali, he was arrested for protesting for Vietnamese rights and not wanting to participate in the war, being anti-violence. He was also banned from participating in major league boxing events for a long period of time. Another example of racism in sports culture can be seen in the pay differences between minorities and whites in multiple sports, such as in the NFL, where Black quarterbacks statistically perform better on average than white ones due to their QB ratings and get paid less for it. This is due to a certain racial prejudice, some say. Asian MLB players are also paid 6% less than Caucasians in the MLB, and the highest paid player in most major league sports, including Sidney Crosby and Tom Brady as examples, are Caucasian. As you can see, this is the pay differential between between white quarterbacks and black quarterbacks, as African American quarterbacks only receive $91 million as a sum per year, as whites have a $377.9 million sum. This is over a $200+ million wage disparity. Racial discrimination in sports also caused athletes to be relegated to shorter roles, such as benching and not playing overall. This was commonly seen in the 60s, actually, as the integrated and segregated teams would agree that Black players should be benched for games and there should be all white teams playing. This was seen as something that would preserve the sport of competition, the art of competition, as playing African Americans in sports were seen as financial suicide in general. Black quarterbacks were also consistently benched in the NFL for white players with lower quarterback ratings. This just shows the prejudice and the underlying motives when it comes to African Americans in sports culture. Racial discrimination in sports also caused that. Oh, this is just a graph. As you can see, centers are predominantly white and quarterbacks, while African Americans are relegated to roles such as the defensive end of the sport. Some may say that minorities have been shown love in the sports world, having a higher chance of being recruited and scouted by leagues. African Americans show this is not true, as they were banned from the NFL due to segregation in earlier periods of athletic competition. This is also seen in the MLB in current days and throughout history, as though the percentages were never too high, as it started off at 17%, after 1995, it completely plummeted going into the modern era. This shows the lack of progression in this sport. In conclusion, discrimination in sports has been shown through the benching of African Americans in order to have all white games, the relegating of African American quarterbacks to smaller roles, the harassment of minorities such as Jackie Robinson and Wilfred Zaha, pay differences among black quarterbacks and white quarterbacks, the banning of Muhammad Ali, the censorship of Colin Kaepernick, the blackballing of Tommy Smith and John Carlos. This should be prevented against, and it should be taught in education as soon as today, that anti-racism should be practiced and preached. Any questions?
I do have 2 questions for you.
Yes, sir.
First question, how did you select the strategies you use to gather information or conduct your research?
The way I selected this strategy was going to credible sites and looking for these sources and searching up these statistics, researching these, and formulating graphs from them.
All right, sorry, I'm just making notes. And the second question, what advice would you have for other researchers who consider this topic in the future?
I would advise for them to dig deep, go into deeper areas of this topic, because there's a lot of censorship when it comes to this. There's of course, a lot of people see racism as no longer an issue. They say that it's lightened up from now, but it still exists. So I advise them to dig deeper, go to many sources, and make sure the sources are credible.